I'd like to thank everybody for being here. For those who are new, Focused Space is a pretty special co-working virtual community. We host daily, weekly, and monthly planning sessions, as well as events such as these. We're kind of like a gym for getting stuff done. So if you're curious to know more, you can check out this link in the chat. We also have a free 1-month trial offer if you want to check us out. And now I'd like to introduce our guest, Risa Williams. Risa is an ADHD therapist, a time management specialist, a host of a podcast on time management, and a professor. She has a new book coming out this November called The Procrastination Playbook, and another one coming out in February 2025 called Getting Stuff Done Without the Stress. So you can learn about Risa's work in some of these links that I'll pop into the chat. But she's doing all sorts of awesome stuff. So in addition to authoring books, Risa works with people in her therapy practice on executive functioning skills, procrastination, time management, goal setting. And so in today's interview, we only have 45 minutes with her. We're going to dive deep into time management, which she has a book on that we're going to be giving away to all the folks that signed up. Sorry, we're giving away one book. So we'll announce who wins that book after the interview. But for now, Risa, I wanted to kind of just dive into some of the background. I'm going to turn this music off here so we can really focus on what you're saying. And also, I'll stop the presentation. So yeah, you're a licensed marriage and family therapist. You run a successful podcast on getting stuff done. And you've written lots of books on ADHD. Just wanted to know, how did you get into this? What kind of piqued your interest in this area?
Well, hi, everyone. It's nice to meet all of you. I'm so excited to see all of you here today. I'm a therapist here in Los Angeles. I specialize in ADHD and time management. I'm also a time management consultant, and I write books all about time management. I have 5 books out, including the Ultimate Time Management Toolkit, which is one of my best-selling books, which I'll be giving away today. I got into it in a strange way. I started just as a general therapist, and I wanted to specialize in anxiety, and I did that for a while. And then something happened where I just started getting a lot of people asking for help managing their schedules. It was like the types of people I was attracting were usually busy professionals, entrepreneurs, creative professionals, and they all had this thing in common, which is they felt busy. They felt like they were always doing a lot and never feeling done. And I kept hearing the same thing over and over again. And as someone who's experienced burnout in my own life, I could really relate to that. So then I started getting more into ADHD, I started attracting more ADHD clients and also just time management clients. So it became a mixture of people who had ADHD, who wanted help with executive functions, but then people who didn't qualify for ADHD, who were experiencing ADHD-like traits of like hyper-focusing, overworking, burnout, not able to gauge how much time things were taking. So I just started developing practical tools that I had used in my own life and applied them to clients, and with a lot of success, in explaining how to take away the shame and the guilt and kind of just break things down in a practical way that feels easy to people, using tools that people can latch onto quickly. So my whole approach to everything I write about is, how do I make this practical and easy? Because we're already so overwhelmed, we're already so anxious and stressed out. Stress is higher than ever right now. More people are reporting chronic stress than even a year ago. It just keeps shooting up. It's like 70% of all people are under chronic stress. We're not just talking about a little bit of stress. We're talking about every day the stress feels like almost unbearable. So everything I'm seeking to do is to help people bring their stress down. Because once we can bring our stress down, we can turn on our executive functioning. And our executive functioning, is prioritization of tasks, organizing, emotional regulation, being able to initiate a task. All that stuff becomes impossible to do when our brains are under stress. So the less stress we can feel, like the more we can regulate our stress, the more we can tap into those executive functioning skills again, which really helps us get stuff done, right? So I guess my approach has been there's really no point in getting stuff done if it's just going to stress you out more. We need to do things in a way that bring our stress down so we can emotionally connect with what we're doing, so we can feel done, and so we can feel proud of ourselves when we're doing little steps, each week.
Mm, yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. I feel like I understand now why you've written so many books because I feel like there's so much that goes into dealing
Yeah.
with just kind of like generally getting things done and like kind of functioning every day. There's anxiety,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
management, there's procrastination, like, and it's just the whole world. So
Yeah.
I know we only have 45, so I really want to like try to hone in on a bit of each. So like specifically with time management in your practice or writing the book and researching it, what have you found is like the most common challenges that like people struggle with when it comes to time management specifically?
So the things I hear a lot about from clients and in the workshops I do are kind of what I explained in the beginning. Like people feel busy all the time. They never feel like work stops. There's no distinguishing like parameter between work and rest. So they just feel like they're working all the time, and they feel like the most common thing I hear is my to-do list never feels done. I never feel done with anything. No matter how much I do and how hard I push myself, I never feel like I finish anything. So that's what I work on, is like, how do we emotionally let ourselves stop and rest and appreciate what we've done? I think as a culture, especially here in America, we are not good at that. We are the opposite, right? And we're all getting a little tired of the hustle culture where we push, 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 work, 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 and then we never feel emotionally like we did anything, right? So I see someone clapping. So you're feeling that right now, right? So it's a mix of things. It's like feeling like we're never done, beating ourselves up constantly. Even when we do something, we don't feel like it's enough. Or a lot of the high achievers I work with who also have ADHD, who do amazing things, they don't give themselves credit for anything they do, right? So there's this feeling of, I just did this, I just won that, I just got here. What's next? Okay, I have to do the next thing. I have to do the next thing. And I call it like the nonstop hamster wheel of stress. It just keeps going. And no matter where you put the carrot, you just keep putting it out of reach. So you never get the carrot. And so your life becomes this chasing after one goal after another and never really emotionally connecting with success or happiness, or like the feeling of like, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm figuring it out, like, good job. And the more we can practice this feeling in little steps, the more we can feel it later when something amazing happens or we do some big accomplishment. Then we can feel those big feelings of pride, relaxation, like accomplishment really is what we're seeking. We're seeking the feeling, not the thing. And we need to practice the feeling so that when we get the thing, we feel the feeling.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like that was really landing with a lot of folks. I saw a lot of emojis going up. And so it sounds like a lot of, the challenges around time management are tied to stress and like,
Yeah.
and yet at the heart of managing time is being able to manage your stress. So like
Yeah.
we actually had a good question. Someone wrote in on the sign up form, and I'll read it out loud here. And I think this might be helpful if you try to answer. Someone said, I'm noticing more and more how stress and emotions impact my procrastination and or motivation, especially that I have a tendency to internalize tasks so they feel bigger than they need to be. Do you have
Yeah.
any advice?
I loved that question when I saw it, because I'm like, yes, this is very, very good. And it shows a lot of awareness of like what's going on with you. So the first tool I teach everybody I work with is an easy one, and I'll teach you guys today. It's called the stress ruler. It's from my book, The Ultimate Anxiety Toolkit. But my newest book coming out, called Get Stuff Done Without the Stress, what I did was I tried to take all my most popular tools and put it in one book so that people had like easy access. And it's in that one too. So really understanding your own stress and what that looks like on you is key to everything. It's key to your self-esteem. It's key to managing your time. It's key to managing your anxiety. So I like to describe it as stress is like an amplifier. The more stress you're feeling, the more your ADHD symptoms will flare up, the more your anxiety will feel intense. It intensifies everything going on with you, right? So the stress ruler, imagine like a yellow ruler like you had in school. And on one end you have a 1, and on the other end you have a 10. And 1 is like very mellow, low level of stress, like hardly any stress at all. Most of us are not at a 1, hardly ever, but we get there sometimes. 10 would be like you're freaking out. Imagine the most stress. This is usually when people are in such a state of shutdown or flight, just freezing up, like emotionally, they're just all over the place. They can't navigate anything. Some people on the outside, when they're at a 10, look like they're freaking out. Like you visibly know they're freaking out. They will tell you they're freaking out. A lot of the clients I work with are very good at masking it. So it's internal. So they just shut down, they withdraw. They might look very calm on the outside, but inside their stress is so high. And I work with a lot of performers, actors, directors, CEOs, these kinds of people, doctors. So they have to at work keep it together. They have to wear a mask. And I think for a lot of us that have ADHD, we learn to wear a mask like that, right? So a lot of times we are very calm on the outside, but inside level 10, stress. So the first step is figure out what the different notches are for you. We're not always at a 1 and we're not always at a 10. We go up and down the scale throughout everyday life. And each of these notches feels different in our brain and our body. So it's getting really nuanced about how does my stress look when it's climbing? So one way I start is, what do stress signs look like on you? So what does it look like when you're at a 10 versus a 5 versus a 7? Some people need to ask their partner or friends or roommates for feedback. They need to say, how do you know I'm at a high level of stress? Because they might not know what it actually looks like on them. So some common things I hear are people lose their sense of humor. They get too busy. Like you would think they'd shut down and not get busy, but it's counterintuitive. A lot of people get more busy. They start adding way too much on their plate. Like they're running around doing a million things, sometimes that aren't even the thing they need to do, right? So that's another sneaky way to procrastinate, is to get too busy. People get short-tempered. They start noticing things that didn't bother them, like sounds or something annoying somebody's doing. It starts to become like all-consuming. They kind of lose perspective, right? So those are some warning signs that your stress might be high. Other people, it's easier to identify it by looking at your body first. So what is your body doing when you're stressed out? So people will tell me, well, when I'm at a 7, I get a horrible feeling in my stomach, or I get a headache, or I start to get dizzy, or I start to ignore hunger, or things like this. And this is quite common with people with ADHD, that we're so busy brained. A lot of us are so intelligent, using our brains all the time, that there is a tendency to disconnect from your body and not notice what your body is actually doing, because your brain will hyper focus in that really stressed out state. And your body, meanwhile, is sending these signs like, hey, your shoulders hurt. Hey, you've been sitting in the same spot for 4 hours, move. But our brain overrides it. So this tool is a way to get used to knowing what your different notches are. And then the goal would be, when we get to the warning zone or the red zone, I call it between a 5 and a 10. It's some number for you. Most people say a 7. This is the place where you can catch your stress and bring it down in an easier way. But if you go past your tipping point, it becomes harder and harder to calm yourself down. So, for example, like if I'm at a 7, I tend to lose my sense of humor. Like my kids could do something really cute or funny in front of me, and I'm just like, I don't see it. Like I'm so in my own head. I can go, a little thing will tip me from a 7 to a 10 very easily. Like it'll just take one email asking for one thing, and I'm like at a 10. If I can acknowledge I'm at a 7 and be like, whoa, my kid just did something cute. I'm not even seeing it. I'm not connecting to the moment. Like my stress must be really high. I can do stress reduction techniques to bring my stress down a little bit. Like I can take deep breaths. I can say, you know what? I need to stop writing. I need to go outside, sit on the patio or sit in the backyard and breathe and let my stress come down. So then it becomes about, when you catch it, can you deliberately do something to bring your stress down? And that looks like different things for different people. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But for now, in chat, put a number you're feeling right now between a 1 and a 10. So what are you guys feeling right now? Oh, we got some 5s. Good. We got an 8. Somebody's high stress. Okay, we got 3s. Some of you are low stress. I'm glad to see that. So for those of you who are like a 7, a lot of 7s and 6s, what are some signs? Now write something in there that is a sign that you are at the tipping point. So for instance, like my examples, I lose my sense of humor. Sometimes I get too busy. Someone said agitated. Oops, somebody's at a 9. Okay, take some deep breaths. Hair twirling. See, these are all good to know about yourself. So what's a sign you're at your tipping point? Zooming thoughts. This one is really common. So a lot of people will tell me that they get ruminating thoughts. They cannot get out of like an anxiety loop. And their brain is going too fast and they feel really restless. Somebody said ignoring hunger cues. That is a big one too. So a lot of you are starting to notice this. So I would encourage you to write it all down, write from 1 to 10, and I can give Darya the worksheet afterwards from my book so you guys can fill it out. And then you'll start to notice, oh, you know, I'm a little higher on my stress scale than I thought. And so sometimes when you're at the computer working all day, what I want you to do is just take a deep breath sometimes and ask yourself, how high is my stress right now? And then just give it a number. So I know this stress scale sounds really simple. Like sometimes I say it and people are like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. It's so deep, like how deep this goes, you can use it in a million different ways. And I'll give you some examples. I have one client who was a CEO who was coming home in a very high stressed out state, but he was not communicating any of this, right? Because first of all, he didn't know how stressed out he was. And second of all, like I said, a lot of people mask and they don't look like they are stressed out. And he was one of those people. So it was leading to fights with him and his partner because she did not know he was stressed out, right? And so then he'd snap and explode and it would scare people because he just looked calm on the outside. So I taught him the stress scale and I said, you know what? He said, it's hard for me to talk. When I get very stressed out, I can't tell people how stressed out I am. I want to shut down. I can't even find words. So I said, why don't you teach your wife this tool and your kids and start to use a number? Just tell them I'm at an 8 when you come home, and then explain what you need when you're at an 8. I need space. I'm going to sit in my desk for a little bit in the other room and let my stress come down, and then I'll come out to dinner and I'll feel better. So that's called a time buffer break. When we get up high on our scale, we need to take a buffer break of time where we deliberately bring our stress down. And we need to communicate this to people because people, first of all, don't know how stressed out they are, and they don't know how stressed out other people are. So you need to say, I'm very high on my stress scale right now. I'm going to take a break and then I'll be available to talk and like come to the table and engage with you. But I need to bring my stress down first before I can do that. As a therapist, this happens to me a lot because I get like listening and talking fatigue at the end of the day. And I have kids and a husband, and sometimes they have problems coming at me, right? And I need to deal with the problems, but I need to transition from therapist mode or professor mode into mom mode. And so sometimes I'll tell them, you know, my stress is like a 7 or an 8 right now. I just let mom calm down for 10 minutes. I'm going to breathe. And then I'm like happy to hear the problems of the day, you know, and I'm happy to help you with your homework. So what I hope I'm doing with my own kids is like by learning to visibly tell them how I'm regulating, I'm teaching my own kids, it's okay when you get home from school to go to your room and calm down for 10 minutes. It's okay to tell me your stress is really high and then do things to bring your stress down. Because if we can model it, then the people around us can model it too. So back to my client, he would come home and say, I'm at an 8. And his wife would now not take it personally because they were getting into fights. And she'd be like, all right, okay, do what you have to do, right? And conversely, when she was getting stressed out, she would tell him, and he said, I've never realized how stressed out she was with basic things like doing dishes, laundry, all this stuff. Now I know I need to help more because she tells me and I see it. And so it can give us this empathy with other people in our lives that we don't always have. We have no idea how stressed out everyone around us really is. Even just looking at this chat right now, some of you are probably having this epiphany. Look at all these sevens, look at all these eights. Other people are stressed out too. And sometimes when I'm doing workshops with people, that's the biggest takeaway is people say, it's normalizing this for me now. I never knew how stressed out I was. I never knew other people were this stressed out. I just assumed everyone else was not stressed out, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. And yeah, even just having this conversation, it's clear we all kind of have some level maybe of self-awareness around like what we turn into or what happens when
Yeah,
we start to feel the stress. And it sounds like before we get to 10, or to prevent getting from a 10, we have to practice knowing what our 7 looks like, our
exactly.
6, our
Exactly.
5, even our
Yeah.
1. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. That's so specific. I think that worksheet you mentioned would be super helpful, and I can
Yeah.
definitely
I'm
send it
gonna
out after.
I will drop it into chat right now and you guys can look at it.
Oh, yay.
Again, it's from the Ultimate Anxiety Toolkit. You can, if you get the book, it has a lot of these tools, and also you can download the worksheets from the book for free at Jessica Kingsley Books. So they have all the worksheets from the book. Let me see if I can attach it. It's not letting me attach it. So I'll email it to you and maybe you can send it out to people later because it's
Yeah.
not letting me drop it for some reason.
Oh, yes, we can definitely do that. And I'll also copy this chat and make sure to send it out, folks. So no worries. We're gonna collect all the resources for you. Um, thanks, Risa. You really kind of opened up a like kind of this sublayer conversation around like when we think about getting things done, it feels like we just need to like kind of power through like things that are going on. And I'm hearing you say kind of like slow down and like
It's the
check in.
opposite. Yeah.
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 I know you have a tool that you had mentioned about that called the task intensity meter. I'm wondering if you
Yeah.
a little bit more about that
Well,
tool in
this is
addition to the
a
stress
good
relief.
segue. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because the stress ruler is first. You need to learn how stressed out you are normally and sort of what your range is. So, as you learn to use this tool, maybe, start tracking it somewhere. Like just write down a number from the day. I got up to an 8 today. I was mostly at a 5. Or on days where you're really low stress, that's a good time to identify it and be like, whoa, I didn't feel any stress. I must be at a 1 or a 2 and label it. Because when we label things, we get mindful about it. We have the awareness turn on in our brain, and it's so good for us, right? When we tell our brains where we want to go, our brains can help us get there. If we identify what a 1 and 2 is specifically to our brain now can form a path like, oh, you want to go there. Whereas normally stress is like this amorphous thing. We're just saying I'm stressed out. There's no way for our brain to like rate it or communicate it, right? It's just very vague. So I'm trying to teach people to get really specific because that is a way of accepting it and acknowledging it, and then we can change it, right? So simple things to bring your stress down. Breathing techniques are very good. It's different for every person. So you need to play around with what works for your particular nervous system. So I could say, breathing techniques work for most people. However, there are some people they don't work for. Like hearing themselves breathe might stress them out more. So for those people, you could try coloring, you could try listening to music, you could try going for a walk. Walks work really great for a lot of people. They just have so much neuroscience studies on movement, on light exercise, but just that our bodies are designed to move. So sometimes when we're stuck in our brains, we need to somehow connect back to our bodies, whatever that looks like to you. For me, it looks like deep breathing and walks. For other people, it might be yoga, it might be meditation. It might just be look around the room and try to use your senses in a calming way. So one exercise I give to people is look around the room and try to find a color right now that calms you down. So you can type it in chat. Just zoom your eyes around the room and find one color that makes you feel calm. I'm going to type mine in. It's green. That's why I have a green in back of me right now. But I always look for a green thing. Oh, some greens, some browns, lots of greens and blues. Those are very popular colors. They've done a ton of neuroscience studies that just being around green and blue spaces for 15 minutes brings your stress way down to almost a 1. So if you're really stressed out, for most people, go look at some trees for 15 minutes. Look at bodies of water. That calms people down. Lavender. Okay, these are good to know. So this could be your go-to thing when you get to a 7. I take a deep breath. I look around the room. I find like a green cup. I breathe into the green. I let it connect to my nervous system and calm me down. These are some tricks. You can find more in my book. The task intensity meter. I drifted a little. Sorry about that. I'm back to the task intensity meter, which I'll also give you a worksheet for. So basically, this asks you to rate tasks that you need to do every day as low, mid, or high intensity. And when I say the word intensity, what I really mean is stress. How much stress does that task cause you? So we're going to play a little game right now. I'm going to say a simple everyday task, and you're going to write L, M, or H, low, mid, or high. Or you could just write low, mid, high. Okay. Doing the laundry. Is this a low intensity task, mid intensity task, high intensity task? That means it stresses you out. Okay, so we got some lows, we got some mids, we got some highs. This is pretty normal. But to normalize this, I want you to look at all the people writing high and see how many people laundry stresses out. Okay, now we're going to do loading the dishwasher, low, mid, high. For me, it's high. I really don't like it. All right, good. How about shopping at the grocery store, buying groceries, driving to the grocery store, getting groceries, let's say on a weekday or weeknight? Look at all the highs. Okay, lots of highs. I'm telling you, every time I do this, something like laundry, going to the grocery store, I get so many highs. And then there's this feeling in the room when I do it in a workshop where people turn to each other and they're like, I had no idea this was hard for other people. Like, no idea. Like, my whole life, I've gone hating laundry. And then they look at the person next and they're like, that's hard for you. So I did a workshop with 100 dentists and doctors. Some of them operate on people every day. And I put operating on people. They put low. Nobody had it as high. I put going to the grocery store. The entire room put it as high. The doctors and dentists did not like going to the grocery store. I said, this is really interesting to me. Explain. And they were all laughing. They're like, I'm exhausted from operating on people. I'm exhausted from, stitching people up all day. The last thing I want to do is go to Ralph's or Vaughn's and have to pick out what to eat for dinner. That makes my brain explode. I want to cry in the middle of the grocery store. So interesting, right? Would you assume that about someone who operates on someone else? No, most of you would say, they seem like they can handle anything. It's not true. We're all over the place with tasks. Everyday tasks stress people out so much more than you think. I'll do another one. How about commuting to work? Getting on the freeway, driving to work, low, mid, high. Write it in chat. I've lost people. They're talking about mail. Okay, high, commute. How about opening up mail? That's a big one I hear. People avoid it. Oh, look at all the highs. Nope. A lot of you don't like opening mail. Some of you don't mind it so much. So you can see we're all over the place. So why is this important? This is a fun exercise because first of all, I want to normalize everyday tasks are hard for people. In my book, The Procrastination Playbook, this is why we procrastinate, because when tasks are high intensity, we feel the stress shoot up. So it correlates to my stress ruler. You go to open that pile of mail, you're suddenly like at a 7 or 8 on your stress scale. The stress is so high. Now this starts shutting our brain down and makes it hard for us to make decisions, move ahead, open the mail, right? So when you have a high intensity task, first of all, acknowledge it. Say it's okay, this happens to a lot of people. And then we look at ways we can make the high intensity task a little easier for you. So if I were to ask you to rate the next 3 things you have to do, high, mid, low. So write out the things you have to do. I'll give you an example. After this, I have to record a podcast, episode directly after this. So for me, that's mid-level high. I don't know the person, right? And then eventually I have to go get lunch. That's low. And pick up my kids from school. I'd say that's mid. I have kids in different schools, right? So write your stuff out as a list. I mean, if you could do it in a row, that'd be great. But so I have a high thing coming up after this. I have a low thing and then a mid thing. Okay, send emails high, figure out supper high. Good. Keep writing them. Let's see what people have coming up. Oh, there you go. TikTok videos high, workshop mid, exercise mid. All right. So this is how I teach people to use this tool. I work with clients. We write out what you have to do. You write out low, mid, high. Now, what I try to encourage people to do is don't have too many high ones in a row. You can only handle a certain amount of high intensity tasks each day. And this is where people with ADHD will argue with me. They'll be like, I can handle 20. Yes, you can handle 20. Where are you going to be emotionally after 20 high intensity tasks? Let me tell you, emotionally, it's not going to look good. Okay. So your stress ruler, I mean, this is the conversation I have every week with clients. Your stress ruler is going to be at a 10 the whole day if you keep pelting yourself with high intensity tasks. Now, some days we have to do it. Like I have some days coming up this week, I have a lot of high intensity tasks on there. I'm already looking at my schedule thinking, oh my God, Wednesday, I have like 3 back-to-back things that are very hard for me to do in a row. So I'm already thinking strategically. I need to give myself breaks in between them, or if I can't have a break in between them, afterwards, I need a giant break to just sit there, go for a walk or breathe or watch a TV show and let my stress come down. So yes, you can do a lot of tasks. Yes, it has a price. The price is stress, right? So look at things through the eyes of stress more. I know that doesn't sound fun, but it's going to change your life and the way you approach your schedule. If I can predict how much stress I'm going to be under, I can do practical things to help myself out. So if I have a choice, like I have this podcast, I have to get lunch, I have to pick my kids up, right? When I go get lunch, I'm going to make sure I bring my stress down. I'm going to pick somewhere easy. I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself to do like a really hard thing. Like, you know, old me before I developed these tools would be like, well, I have a couple hours. I'm just going to go to the gym, run some errands at Target, and go pick up art supplies for my kid. Now I have packed into that low intensity block. I have packed in 3 mid to high level things in there just to be efficient. It's not going to make me efficient at all. It's going to make me so stressed out. I'm probably going to end up wandering around Target, buying weird things at Target. We've all been there, right? In a highly stressed out state, I'm going to forget to buy the supplies I need. I'm going to leave Target feeling like, what did I do? I didn't even eat lunch. Now I have to race and get my kids and I'm battling traffic. So who can relate to this? If you can relate to it, put yes or thumbs up. There you go. I got some thumbs up. Okay.
Oh, the chat's blowing up, Risa. We're all
I
feeling
love
called
it.
out in the
I
best
love it.
way.
Well, good. I'm trying to normalize it and let you know
Yeah.
that, you know, like I'm somebody who talks about this all day long and I catch myself doing stuff like that to myself all the time. And, you know, then I say, like, I need to use my own tools. I need to do what I teach people. I need to slow it down, make space. So this is my one takeaway for all of you. Make space in between those high intensity tasks. Give yourself a break. It's a way of being kind to yourself. Think of yourself, if you were your own employee, you'd be like, go take a break already. Go take a break. Like, you can't have back-to-back meetings all day long and be emotionally okay. You need to take a break. Make space between high intensity tasks. Be kind to yourself during that space. So the second piece of that is we often make space and we don't bring our stress down at all during the space. Who can relate to that? You take a break, your stress stays at a high level. I see lots of thumbs. Okay. Yeah. We are all guilty of that these days. This is our culture right now. People go on vacation. People say they're taking the weekend off. People say, I gave myself 20 minutes at lunch. it doesn't feel like a break to them. It's not what I call a real break. So I want you to distinguish between break and real break. A real break to me is one where I'm actively bringing my stress down. That's why I'm saying everything I look at through the eyes of stress, right? If I'm not actively bringing my stress down, I can't get there. My brain and body have not reset. So I'm going to go into the next task emotionally drained, energy drained, neural energy drained, and it will feel like a high intensity task. So here's another nuance of my task intensity meter. The more tired you are, the more drained you are, the higher level intensity the task will feel. So it doesn't mean like laundry is always going to feel high intensity to you. It will feel high intensity if you're exhausted. If you've just done 5 high intensity tasks in a row, now laundry is going to feel hard. Or something I actually like doing, like writing my books or articles, I like it. That can feel so hard for me if I'm in the wrong mental gear. If I'm drained, if I beat myself up all day, if I've been running around, I am not going to have ideas to write. So you have to understand that downtime is really good for your brain. When we have actual downtime, when we're bringing our stress down, we can tap into the executive functions. There's something that happens to our imagination where we get new ideas, where we get creative inspiration. How many of you have ever had this happen to you? You were really stuck on a problem. You got so frustrated that you're like, enough. And you went for a walk. And somewhere mid-walk, you were like, oh my God, I know what to do. Or you're washing the dishes and you're like, I know exactly what to write in that email now. Has that ever happened to you, that light bulb moment? That's because you actually brought your stress down. That is what it feels like to actually bring your stress down enough that your brain can turn on its problem solving ability. So it isn't magic. It's letting your brain reset. So we can do this more deliberately throughout the day. You can have more of those light bulb moments, but you got to let yourself have breaks and you have to let yourself replenish your own energy. I hope that resonates with you guys out there. How about you, Darya? Does it resonate with you?
100%. I feel
So
like I'm
good.
seeing a lot of comments, and it's reminding me of so many of the themes we talked about. Kayla mentioned diffuse mode. I think that was something
Mhm.
we talked about in terms of learning
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, just giving ourselves a chance to just like even kind of regulate for a moment. And it seems like so much of it, like the takeaway for me is like just giving yourself pause to just manage your stress, like become aware of how stressed you are in any given moment, or
Right.
pausing and taking a second to consider the task I'm about to do. How stressful is this for me?
Yeah.
Just so much pausing and like checking in, instead
Yeah.
of just like boom, 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 pummeling through what we have to do in a day. I'm noticing we have like 4 minutes left. And so I wanted to ask one more question if we can squeeze it in.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's kind of related. So you have a new book coming out in November called The Procrastination Playbook. I'll put a link in the chat for anyone who wants to pre-order or just check it out. This is perfect because our community is no stranger to
Oh, yeah.
procrastination.
Oh, yeah.
And we had multiple members write in about questions around like overwhelm and getting motivated, getting started. Here's an example question. How do you get
Yeah.
motivated when you're feeling so overwhelmed you don't even want to start? You're like in shutdown,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people wrote. Can you, yeah, speak a little bit to
Sure.
that?
Well, first of all, the book is really going to help you because I tried to make a subject that feels really heavy and people have a lot of shame around it. I tried to make it feel like lighter and easier to navigate. So it's illustrated. I give different procrastinations different names so you can identify them. Because as you're beginning to see, a lot of my tools are about calling things out, like getting really specific and saying, this is this type of procrastination. This is what I'm doing. Here's what I'm going to do next. Because that is like becoming mindfully aware of yourself. And I know we throw the term mindful around a lot as therapists. What I want you to think of it as is compassion. It's showing yourself compassion, like acknowledging how much stress you're under, acknowledging that things are hard for you. It's showing yourself compassion. The other way to do it is to beat yourself up and say, you shouldn't feel this is hard. You shouldn't feel stressed out at all. What's wrong with you? That is the opposite of compassion. And that shuts people down more. So the way you talk to yourself is important. And a lot of my book is about self-talk. The reason we're procrastinating a lot is something feels high intensity. We haven't fully acknowledged it. We're pretending like it isn't high intensity to us. And then we're avoiding it, right? So it's all in the subconscious. None of it is being brought forward. We're not being compassionate to ourselves. We're not saying, hey, I noticed you're really struggling with this. You're avoiding it. What is hard about this for you? Let's talk about it. What are you doing? So sometimes I'll just give you a little mini tool. When it comes to procrastination, my first rule is like, call it out. You have these warning signs you're starting to procrastinate. It's like the stress ruler tool. There are early stages of procrastination where you are starting to procrastinate and it's not full blown yet. So what are some procrastination warning signs for you guys? If anyone knows this about themselves, put it in chat. I'll give you some examples. I have one client who's been trying to write a novel. Her warning sign is she avoids her computer. She won't go near her computer or desk. She will literally clean her house or do anything else, and she'll avoid physically looking at her computer. I have another client who shops. She does impulse purchases. She starts buying way too much stuff, going down research sinkholes. Research is another one. That's a sneaky one. You're like, I'm getting ready to write this book, so I'm going to research some stuff. And you just lose yourself in research. Writers are really good at this one because we look productive on the outside. We tell ourselves, I'm preparing. Snacking is another one I hear. People sit down to write an email, get up to get snacks 10 times. I call it snack procrastination. Political news, TikTok, YouTubes, social media cleaning. One of my clients calls it rage cleaning. She just cleans angrily because she knows she's avoiding. All this stuff. Okay, so these are your procrastination warning signs or cues. So from now on, you catch yourself doing this. So let's say I have a work report, it's due tomorrow. My brain tells me now is a good time to go on Expedia and plan my next vacation. So I start doing that. I'm going down an Expedia rabbit hole. What I'm going to do is say to myself, what are you doing right now? What's going on with you? Are you stressed out? What are you doing? Like, I'm talking to a little kid. I'm the little kid. What are you doing right now? What's going on? And I'll be like, oh, God, you know what I'm doing? I'm procrastinating. And you just admit it to yourself and you laugh about it and you don't make it so heavy. You have this little internal conversation with yourself. What are you doing? I'm procrastinating. I think I'm procrastinating. Why are you procrastinating? I don't want to do it. I hate that work report. Okay, well, let's have a conversation. What is the not fun part of the work report? Because usually it's not the whole thing you're procrastinating. It's one little piece. And that one little piece is the high intensity piece of the task. So you can take any task and you can label it low, mid, high intensity. And then if we want to get really specific, we could take something like writing a work report. And I can break it down into steps and rate the steps as low, mid, high. I have a client right now who gets to go on this wonderful vacation. She's procrastinating booking any of the vacation. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I love travel. I love vacations. Why am I procrastinating? So let's break it down on paper. We wrote down all the steps, have to order the ticket, have to arrange the hotel, have to plan activities. I said, which of those is the high intensity one that's making you feel stuck? She's like, oh, none of them are hard. I hate planning activities. I hate it. It's a group of people. They're all over the place. I don't know what to do. That's where I'm getting stuck. So then we start looking at it and saying, okay, can you do the other parts first? She's like, yeah, I can do the other ones. Those are easy. Okay, well, let's work up to it. So motivation, back to your question about motivation. Motivation tends to strike moving objects. Motivation does not happen to us when we're not moving. It's counterintuitive. We're always waiting for motivation to move us. We have to start moving first to feel motivation. That's my secret. It's in my new book, Get Stuff Done Without All the Stress. It's actually one of the secrets in the book. Don't wait for motivation. It only finds you when you start moving forward. It needs momentum to find us. So when you break stuff down, you pick the easiest task, the easiest piece of the task. You start moving and the procrastination starts coming down. the motivation starts kicking in. It's not going to happen before you move. So you have to take the first step. And I hope you'll check out the book because it has all these, dozens of tools that are so easy to get you to take that one easy first step forward so that you can feel the confidence kick in. You can feel the motivation kick in and all that. I really enjoyed talking to you guys today. Please buy my books, and you can come work
Yay.
with me in sessions if you go to my website, risawilliams.com, and also my Motivation Mindset podcast. For those of you who didn't get your questions answered today, if you listen to it, in the next month, I'll be picking questions to answer on the show with the help of other experts who guest host with me.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Risa. Yes, just seconding and thirding everything Risa just said. I pasted her links in the chat to her website, the podcast, her LinkedIn. You should connect with her if you found today helpful. She takes clients and yeah, read her books because this was so helpful. I wish we had more than 45 to dive into all of this.
I know
I'm
I
like,
could go on for like 3 hours. You have to
just
rein me.
dipping our toes in the water. Well, thank you so much, Risa, for your time. For anyone who has questions, feel free to just paste them into the chat, or you can direct send them to Risa, and we'll make sure she gets them. And yeah, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone, and thank
you.
you, Focus Space. I love partnering with you guys.